giving you an unprecedented glimpse into NAAWLI's dynamic program, curated specifically for you. We've received over 100 registrants for our session today, some logged in individually, others in small groups, and I can already feel the excitement and energy and just the anticipation that you'll leave this session ready to take action. Today, you'll get to hear from the NAAWLI Nation, women who have dedicated their time and talent to help you level up your career, your finances, and to help you become your personal best. And on that note, I am happy to introduce our speaker today, Mrs. Cara Barker. Cara is a senior operations leader at State Farm Insurance in Dallas, Texas. She has over 20 years of experience driving operational efficiency, transformation, and exponential growth. She is CEO and founder of Empower Her Consulting LLC, which is a life coaching company for women. She is a global host of the Hello Maximizer podcast. She is the internationally published author of 2 devotional journals for women, Hallelujah and Hiccups, the 100-Day Devotional Journey, and Breakthroughs and Bless Yous. She is an official LinkedIn leader to follow and a triple feature in Voyage magazine. And if that's not enough, Cara is the official brand ambassador for NAAWLI, and more importantly, my sister of the NAAWLI class of 2021. Please join me in welcoming the dynamic and amazing Ms. Cara Barker.
Thank you, Daphne, and fellow board members and program chair and the amazing NAAWLI Nation. It is such a thrill to have a little mini session with all of you ladies, or maybe a few gents out there as well. But we're excited to have a little bit of a glimpse into what we do in the NAAWLI experience. And so I see a lot of beautiful faces out there, which is exciting to see. But let's go ahead and jump right into this session. I am a brand and about your personal brand. And so we often hear, ladies, the term personal brand used within the context, more of the culture of the corporate context. However, as individuals, like all of us, we can employ the same type of aspects across our professional and personal relationships, right? And so when we think about personal brand, it is not that much different than the term that we connect with the corporate. Although you may have strict brand guidelines or logos that attach to that, but when you think about your personal brand, ladies, it's how others see you, how you make them feel, and it's really the characteristics that tend to be synonymous of your name. So your brand shows up even before you actually show up. But when we think about this particular slide, there's a couple things I want to really pull out. And then I'm going to actually give you a couple other nuggets as we dive into this session today. So it only takes 7 seconds to make a first impression. So I don't know if you're counted out. Hopefully I've made a good first impression already, because it's been about 7 seconds. Jeff Bezos says, your brand is what others say about you when you're not in the room. Women represent only 20% of executives and women of color only 4%. I'm going to dive into that stat because I think we have a number of women of color out there. But executive presence, though. Executive presence, according to the Center of Talent and Innovation, accounts for 26% of all promoted related decisions. 26%. So some of you may think a little bit like, well, what are you talking about executive presence? Well, let me give you a little bit of insight in executive presence, because it all connects with personal branding. Executive presence, ladies, is about having 3 main attributes. So for the note takers, this is your cue. If you want to take some notes, this is your cue to dive in. So executive presence is about having 3 main attributes: character, substance, and style. So I'm not talking about red bottoms, girls, well, maybe a little bit, but style. But let me drill a little bit further down. Character. So we think about character and executive presence. Those are the leadership behaviors such as humility, authenticity, integrity. We talk about substance. It's your composure, your vision, your intentionality, your confidence, right? Your style, maybe a little bit of red bottoms or popping your collar, I don't know, but specifically with executive presence, it's really, you think about intentionality, your inclusiveness, how you're modeling diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging, your ability to execute. So when you think about executive presence and personal branding, what we do a lot in the NAAWLI program, we talk about those characteristics. It is a skill, not a trait, which means it's something that you actually can cultivate. It's something that you can actually build upon. So a stat that's not on this slide, I really want to hone in a little bit on is a recent Lean In study, and also from the McKinsey study, workplace study. They surveyed over 40,000 women. That's a lot of ladies. 40,000 women. In that population of their survey, 20% of Black women that were surveyed stated that they experienced having someone say or imply that they weren't qualified, or compared to the 12% of all women. Another disarming statistic in this was 38% of Black women leaders experienced being mistaken for someone else at a lower level, compared to 26%. Now, I don't know about you, but that would bother me. 55% of Black women in this 40,000 women survey, 55% of Black women leaders experience having judgment questioned, compared to 39% of other ladies. And then last but not least, which is not on this slide, but I want to hone these in because I think it resonates with this actual audience today, is Black women leaders are more ambitious. Well, I mean, we like to level up. You heard that in the beginning. We like to level up, but we have the receipts to show, right? But are more ambitious than other women at the level. 59% of women stated in this 40,000 study that they want to be top executives. So they're actually saying, I want to be top executives. But you think about that, only 2% across the US, 2% represent women of color in the C-suite. So there's a disconnect there. So what I want to do, let's go to the next slide, team. I want to really talk about kind of seeing where you are. And I want to take about 5 minutes to talk about personal management strategy. So there's 2 prompts that I want you guys to take on your notes, or maybe if you want to think about on your notepad or in your smart book or what have you. 5 minutes, because I don't want you to think too long. You're probably already thinking right now. So 5 minutes only, which is for you to prompt some thinking. So what are 3 attributes associated with your personal brand? And the second prompt is, what are 3 behaviors you are currently modeling that is leading you towards your personal best? Now, if you want to be a little bit adventurous and you want to be bold, because we're trying about leveling up, if you want to throw something in the chat, specifically, what are the attributes associated with your current brand, go for it, because I'd love to see it too. So give you 5 minutes to jog it down into your notebook, or you can throw it into the chat, because this is an interactive session. 3 attributes, and then also 3 behaviors. Let's see. We've got curiosity, strategy, inspiration. Thanks for starting off the chat, Miss Daphne. 3 attributes, ladies. Don't think too long. Don't Google it either. I know people want to Google it. 3 attributes you want to be associated with your name when you're not in the room. 3 attributes. And also behaviors that maybe you're modeling. But let's do the 3 attributes. Those are always easier. Dr. Tara has excellence, vision, and integrity. Those are power words. That's strong. Maybe a couple others, and then we'll keep it moving. Passionate, honesty, compassionate. Yes. Now we're going to go full circle back around. I'm going to see if these are really playing, if you're truly owning your truth of what you're saying. Pioneer, intentional, passionate. Yes. Authenticity, strategic, passionate. Everyone wants to be known as being passionate leaders. Great. Unique, inspiring, resilient. Oh, I love that one. Cassandra out there said resilient. So there's a number of things that we want to be associated with our brand. And so throughout this presentation, I want you to be thinking, how are you actually showing up? If that's what you're saying you want your brand to show, this is the key. Are you managing your brand, or is there a mismanagement of your brand? One of the things when you think about your brand, it should show up consistently. So educator for people, relationship, awesome. Everyone, integrity. Thank you for saying integrity, because that's key. Integrity is a deal breaker if you don't have integrity. All right, let's go ahead and advance to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so when you think about how you build a strong personal brand, now this may not be all inclusive, ladies, but as you think about the words or the attributes that you identified in the chat, which I appreciate you guys participating, think about all these characteristics as you start to build your brand. If you struggled in this space, ladies, this will be a great thing you can do over the weekend, over the next course of the week, to really think about how you want your brand to resonate. So the first thing when you think about building a strong personal brand, one, you need to know yourself. So looks like we know ourselves pretty well, but think about one of the best ways you can build an authentic personal brand is being yourself. Nobody needs a cheap copy of you. You're the original. Nobody needs a counterfeit you. You're the best version of you. Second, though, ladies, is knowing your strengths and weaknesses, right? Once you know your strengths, ladies, and weaknesses, it will help you and really help you become more focused on your brand message, right? So when you know what your strengths are, like many of you said, empathetic, communicator, honest, transparent, that gives you the fuel you need to show up every single day in that mindset. When you know your weaknesses, that allows you to do that adjustment, right? So you think about when you go to a chiropractor or a doctor out there, there's times where things are out of alignment. When you're self-aware of what your strengths are and your weaknesses, you can do a quick fix or a quick alignment or realignment to make sure that everything that you're portraying or you're saying is in a direct alignment with your personal brand. Thirdly, focusing on the reality and managing perceptions. Some people say perceptions are the reality, perceptions, so the key thing is you need to know what you are throwing out there. So one of the things when I think about when I coach a lot of different clients is we talk about what is your presence when you're in person and what is your presence when you're not in person. Social media. Does your social media brand align with who shows up for the door? Now, I don't want to offend anyone out there, but we know as ladies, sometimes we can do the filters. Well, sometimes we can filter ourselves so bad that we don't even know who we look like. And when we show up in the room, it's a whole nother person. That's the same thing if you are mismanaging your brand and you are known for some of the characteristics as being professional and being reliable, but you don't show up. You're always late. You're always rolling in at a different time. Well, that becomes a mismanagement of the brand. And what happens there is then the perceptions do become the reality, but then you're being known for a negative brand statement. Fourth, know your narrative. One of the things that I love to think about, the art of storytelling, right? So what does your story tell? Are you a book worth reading? So if you were on the shelf with multiple books, would someone gravitate and pull you off the shelf? And would they be so intrigued by what they're reading, they're looking for the sequel or the next edition of your book? So when you think about your narrative, as a leader and as a woman leader, think about poor narratives are generally the result of mismanaging your brand story. So when you think about what is being spoken about you, you really have to, one, know your strengths and play upon your strengths, but you also need to know how to manage the narrative, because the narrative can manage you. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into that. Lastly, be consistent. I think that's with anything, ladies. Consistent. Once you've identified your core values, or you think about our quick exercise that we did, and you want your brand to identify who you are, consistency creates accountability, reliability, relevant, continuation. It establishes your reputation. It helps people identify who you are. It aligns your messages. The one of your things that you're projecting is part of your words and is your brand management. So knowing yourself, knowing your strengths, focusing and managing on perspectives or perceptions, know your narrative. What's your story? Are you a story worth reading? And being consistent and on point, being in aligning with those attributes on a day-to-day grind, on a day-to-day habit, so that it becomes a natural way of life for you. All right, we're going to move into dimensions. Now, I believe this is one that I love so much, because I believe being your personal best is not one aspect. You really need to think about all dimensions that you are throwing out in the ecosystem or out there in the world, right? And so if you are misaligned in any of these categories, you can kind of show up in a different way. So I can tell you this, right now, when you think about physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, I really want to focus in the mental space. As Black women, or just women in general, and especially if you're in a professional setting or in a leadership setting, we can level up, but sometimes at our detriment. And we are on a mode where we are moving so quickly, where we are now misaligning our brand, but then we also think about, we tend to put wellness on the back burner. So when we think about spiritual, physical, emotional, mental is so key, especially wellness. I was talking to a lady the other day about self-care is not selfish. It's not selfish. It's okay if you want to do the special things for yourself, but also self-care is not hygiene. So taking a bubble bath, that's nice, but that's hygiene. So when you think about self-care, you think about things that you're able to do for yourself, so then you can then come back and show yourself for the world, right? So if you are constantly on the grind and you're doing some different things and you're wanting to level up in your career and show up as your personal best, you've got to make sure there's balance in the other aspects. Are your emotions in balance? Do you have a good emotional intelligence? Do you have it? Are you sleeping? Are you exercising? Are you practicing stillness? Those are key things, ladies, so that you can be your personal best. So one of the comments out there is, you can't pour from an empty cup. You're so right. If you are depleted and you no longer have fuel in your tank, you're going to show up in some different ways. And think about eating properly and rest. How many of you all have been a person of being hangry? And when you're hangry, you show up in all different elements, and it then becomes a mismanagement and alignment of the brand that you want to exude. Going back to the first slide of 7 seconds of making first impressions, can you imagine if you have not been getting proper sleep, you haven't been filling your tank, you are exhausted and tired, and now you've got to show up for the next day to do a presentation? There's a good chance that you may not be giving it your all, because you have not been balancing on the other aspects of the 4 dimensions. And so I really, really stress all 4. You can figure out what area that you may have some opportunities for growth, and we all do. But think very clearly as you think about your personal brand, what are some maybe deficiencies that you really want to focus on, not as a resolution, but as a game change, right? So resolutions not for just January, because we're almost out of January. I want this to become a habit for you, so that you are continually operating and trying to be bettering yourself. I love that. A comment out here is, the difference in my personality is astounding when I get 8 hours of sleep versus 6 hours. 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep is my self-care flex. You go, girl. Miss Roberts, that is a self-care flex. You need to sleep. Sometimes you can have your best ideas when you have a great time of sleep. Some people even, I'll tell you, some people will do a staycation. I don't know if that's a thing in Texas, or maybe that's a thing in Florida, but a staycation where you don't go anywhere, but you just stay in. You're not doing a Netflix and chill, but you're staying still and grounded, and you're reflecting on how can I show up even better the next day? How can I become better in my current spaces? How come I can become better as a leader, a mother, wife, partner, whatever that combination is? How can I become better? And the only way you're able to do that is that you kind of balance, you get still, you find your space, and kind of chillax, if that's the word. I just made that one up. But if you can just chillax in your space. All right, let's move to the next phase. All right, so I love this, guys, because there's an analogy that a lot of women will say they wear a lot of hats. Well, I'm all about exuding my superpowers, and we all have superpowers. And so when you think about Supergirl, Wonder Girl, they all have a cape. But there are usually things that is limiting us from being our very personal best. So we're talking about branding, right? And we're talking about becoming our personal best. One of the things that I have identified over just visiting with client after client, mentor after mentor, and even myself, so I'm not speaking something that is not applying to me, ladies, is fear. Fear has a way of derailing a lot of things. Fear has a way of putting a cap on your potential. Fear has a way of putting a ceiling on your potential. Fear to do this, fear to not do this. Should I say this? Should I not do this? Fear has a limiting factor, which is really, when you think about being your personal best, fear gets in the way from you showing up authentically. Fear gets in the way of you owning your truth, right? Fear gets in the way of you being true to others as well. Fear is a powerful force that has the power to literally kill your ambitions, your goals, and your dreams. So if you think about being your personal best, branding on point, fear can get you off track. Fear also creates excuses that seem legitimate enough so that you stop taking action and you go back to your comfort zone. So here are 5 fears. I love it. False evidence appearing real. That's a good one, Lisa. I'm going to take that one. That's a good one, Lisa. So we think about leveling up, where you heard kind of the intro song to get us jazzed up. I'm going to talk about 5 types of fears in a little bit greater detail here. So number 1, fear of the unknown. Now, I know we are post the COVID-19 space. There's still some elements that are still happening in our world, but of not knowing what's going to happen. So we end up being still. Fear of the unknown is bound and limited by the what if. The what if this, what if this happened, what is that? And so you play that what if game scenario constantly, then you just don't do anything. Therefore, you don't take risks. Very change adverse, and rather stay silent than leveraging one's voice. So you don't know if, for example, you're in a meeting and you know you have the goods, meaning you have the characteristics, you have the attributes, you did your study, you know the story, you know what's happening from a result standpoint, but you don't know how it's going to be perceived, so you stay silent. Well, that's limiting for you showing up and being your personal best. Fear of failure. So belief that you don't have the skills and knowledge to achieve something because of past failures. Past performance is not necessarily an indicator of the future. I'm going to stress that. Just because you did not make it in one aspect, just because you had a misstep in one aspect of maybe in your career, does not mean you cannot be leveling up or positioning yourself for the next. It could be a lesson learned. Every failure is an opportunity to learn. So I want you to think about that. Fear of judgment, the core of playing small, magnifying your limitations instead of maximizing one's strength. That says it what it is. So I won't go any greater. That's what it says. Fear of instability, fear that the bottom is going to fall out if you make a career move, job change, location change. Ladies, what we saw post-pandemic, we saw a tremendous increase. It was like over 60% of women, specifically Black women entrepreneurs, jumping out there and starting their own business. You saw so many women of color post-pandemic that started their launches, starting new businesses, and those things. It was an instability in the atmosphere, but they bet on their self and they decided, I'm going to make a move. When you think about being your personal best, I want you to think about, in your current setup, are you able to accent all the strengths that you mentioned in the chat on a day-to-day basis? Are you able to perform on a day-to-day basis of thinking of communication and reliability and integrity, character, all those things that you mentioned as your strength and your current spaces? Are you able to truly operate in those strengths? Now, I know in every job, you're not going to be able to do everything at all times, but you have to do a self-assessment of, in your current roles, are you really able to be your very best, show up as your very best, exude all your very talents on a consistent basis? You're not plain silent, and you're also respected to showcase those skills as well. Now, if you're not able to do that, then you may want to do some self-assessment. I am not telling you to go out there and put your 2 weeks notice in. I am not going to get fired by NAAWLI and get nasty grams. But what I'm telling you all is thinking of, do that self-assessment. Think about later in our presentation, we're going to talk about doing brand statements. Thinking about, as you are currently right now, does your brand statement align with your organization's brand statement or vision statement or mission statement? Is there alignment? If it is misaligned, then there's definitely some opportunities for you to do some self-searching. And then stress of success, successor's guilt, downplaying your own accolades, accomplishments, education, and experience. Oh my goodness, ladies. And I'm going to say a few gents out there. I'm going to be inclusive. So my friends, right, that are tuning in, fear of success. There are so many women also that I've seen that have advanced tremendously in their careers. And they've done really either in the nonprofit or the profit sector. And when you think about it, some of them, because in their surroundings, things may have not happened for their friends, their girlfriends, their colleagues, or whatever. So they're quiet. They don't really share, well, gosh, yeah, I just finished this master's degree, or yes, I just got a director role, a consultant role, or now I'm a CEO. So they play small and they don't say anything because they want to downplay their accolades. I'm going to be your motivational coach right now and tell you, stop that. You are not being your personal best if you are constantly playing small and downplaying the things that you did, whether that's your preparation, your grind, your intentionality, your building the networks, all the things you did to get you where you are. Be where you are. You earned it. So you've earned it. All right, let's go to the next slide. So when you think about, to reach your personal best, you need to learn how to challenge the person in the mirror. Your fiercest adversary is you. Man, we get in our own way. We totally get in it is not your coworker all the time, or your boss, or your neighbor, or your sister, or your auntie, or your mom, or whoever. Generally, who limits you is you. We get in our own way. It's us. Who's the person you spend the most time with? You. Who's the person that knows you probably more than anyone? You. Who is the person that knows what you can do even is really you. So when I think about being your fiercest adversary, friends, is really taking that self-assessment and thinking, how am I showing up? What am I modeling? What does the mirror show? And what is people seeing when they see me as well? Okay, next slide. All right, so I really like this because we're going to dive in even a little bit deeper on 12 ways. So you may be thinking, okay, I want to be my personal best. I want to be on point. I don't want to have mismanagement of my brand. I want my brand to truly align with what my strengths and my attributes are. So I'm going to talk about some things that as you put in some rhythm and some practices, especially since this is the beginning of the year, some rhythm and some practices you can incorporate right now that can get you to your very personal best. I've highlighted becoming because I want you to give yourself grace right now. This is not an overnight process. Our behaviors are things that we do. It took us time to get where we are, but it's a becoming. It's a constant renewal process that you are doing deliberately to becoming your personal best. Okay, so releasing limited beliefs. You know who you are, but do you know who you could be? Let's think about that. Most of us are held back by limiting beliefs, untrue thoughts we have about our nature. By learning to recognize and let go of the limiting beliefs, ladies, we are now, if you don't let go of those limiting beliefs, you are keeping yourself becoming the best version of you. And so when you think about releasing, you have to go back to that statement is, you know who you are, but do you know who you could be? I want to say this, there is always greatness within everyone. I don't care who you, there is greatness within you. So if you didn't hear that today, I'm going to tell you loud and clear, there's greatness within you. But are you operating in your greatness? Are you operating in a way where it is magnifying you and it's elevating you and it's showcasing your goodness to the world? If not, then there's opportunity to do some adjustment. 2, moving from the fixed mindset and to the growth mindset. You got to grow. You've got to be open to doing something new. If you want something new, if you want to change the current continue or the flow of what your career or whatever your path you're on, you've got to move from being just stuck in your thinking. Most of the time we think about personal branding and personal best, it comes with your thought life. What are you thinking on? Do you think you could be better? Do you think you should be better? What is the alignment there as well? 3, emphasizing and celebrating gradual progress. I like to treat myself. So I don't know about you guys. I mean, when I'm actually doing something like, oh my gosh, what I said I was going to do in 2022 is actually coming to fruition. It's getting a little bit better. Big success tomorrow depends on the little things you do today. Say it again. Big success tomorrow depends on the little things you do today. So emphasizing growth over goals is critical, but goals do have their place in competition. Think of them as milestones, setting incremental milestones. Think about if it's like losing weight. That's kind of most weight loss programs out there of really the premise is getting a better you or being more fit or what have you. It's progress. You don't just go automatically losing 50 the next day. It's progress. It's the work. You got to do the work. 4, amplifying your strengths. We talked about your strengths. Focusing on your strengths will get you even stronger in those areas, but you got to be fully aware of yourself along the way. When you amplify your strengths, ladies, you remember what you bring to the table and you crush those obstacles in your path. Let me say that again because I want you to get that. When you amplify your strengths and you're operating in your personal best, you remember what you bring to the table. Nobody has to tell you what you bring to the table. You know what you bring to the table. You know what your worth is. I heard a quote out there, I am the table. Well, that's confident. Maybe you are the table. Build the table and bring some other chairs for your sisters. But you amplify, you know what you bring. You know what your package is. Nobody has to tell you what you bring because you know what you bring. Caveat, we talk about this with our NAAWLI fellows all the time, is that don't play small. There is greatness within you. What can you bring to the table? How can you magnify those as well? But also, how do you lift, while we rise, we lift others along the way as well. All right, managing oneself effectively. Ladies, we can kill people with our eyes and we can kill people with our tongue. Don't be that girl. Managing emotional intelligence is so critical. The higher you go in leadership, if you're on that leadership climb, The farther away you get from the technical expertise, right? It's emotional intelligence, how you're managing yourself, how you're building relationships, how you're influencing. That's all about managing oneself. So you don't want to cut off your blessings because you are cutting people with your eyes. I had to pause there. That was intentional. I was cutting with my eyes. You have to think about how you're exuding and using those nonverbals, and nonverbals will literally derail and mismanage your brand. So don't be that one that is literally cutting off your blessings because you're cutting people with your eyes, side eyeing, doing little sides. You know what we do sometimes. Understanding your audience, being your personal best. When it's your time to show up, ladies and few gents out there, think about how you got to know your audience. So are you on point with your messaging? So now you think about, you crafted your brand statement, you know what your strengths are. Now it's time for you to present something in front of audience. Well, you want to make sure you are in tune to the audience so that there is not a misalignment of what you're communicating, right? So understanding the audience, being authentic. All right, you think about, like most of us, we have an expectation of other people. People have other expectations of us, but are they what we expect of ourselves? Do you show up every day, or are you the imposter? Do you have a clone every day that shows up for you? I think all of us probably could need a clone sometimes with all of our busy lives, but does your clone happen to show up every single day, Monday through Friday? Or have you been to the point where, you know what, you are the clone and you've been so misaligned with who you are that you show up as somebody else? So instead of me being Cara, they just say Kara. Well, actually, they do say Kara all the time. Let me get back on point. But thinking of your being authentic in who you are. Modeling a change adoption mindset. Resist the urge to cling to familiar. As you are building that personal brand, becoming your personal best, there's some things you've got to shave off. There's some things that just doesn't align. The higher you go, the more you're elevating, there should be an evolution of who you are. If you're still, and this maybe, hopefully I don't offend, but if you're still rocking those, not the in style mom jeans, the back in the day mom jeans, there's a difference. If you're still rocking the old retro, but not the new retro, you haven't evolved. So you've got to think about change adoption, change mindset. Another understanding that you are constantly being evaluated. You're being evaluated all the time. Half the time when you are in a corporate sector or a non-for-profit sector, whatever sector you're in, church or whatever industry, you're constantly being evaluated. People are evaluating on basically what they know of you, what they've heard of you, what they think of you before you even show up as the real you. So you're being constantly evaluated. When you show up and you start interjecting and you're talking and you're communicating, does it align with what they already thought about you? So think about this. If you want to be known as a CEO, boss lady, whatever that is, does that align with what you are giving out? If you're playing small and behind the scenes all the time, when they are thinking of those that could be influencers, they're not going to think of you because it doesn't align, because you're constantly being evaluated, you're constantly being interviewed. We already mentioned self-care and personal development. That's what you're doing today. So I commend you all for jumping into this quick mini session of self-care and personal development. Next is giving oneself grace. You got to give yourself grace in this space, right? And last, staying on brand at all times. One thing I have to say about a number of, and I will say the disclaimer, we did not get paid by Chick-fil-A or from Macy's or from whatever brand out there, but they always stay on brand. When you see the golden arches, what do you know? You know it's McDonald's. When you hear the term closed on Sundays, you know it's attached to Chick-fil-A. When you think about waffle fries, Chick-fil-A. When you think about red bottoms, you know what I'm saying. When you think about when you think about Rihanna, you think about Fendi Beauty, it stays on brand all the time. When you are looking at those different brands on social media in the whatever setting, it is always alignment. You're never going to see the golden arches and you're going to think Burger King, because that's not associated. So when you think about it, when people see you, you want to be on brand at all times. Now, I'm not saying to your exhaustion, but it needs to be consistently modeling the attributes that you want to exude. So if you want to be known as a leader, lead. Consistently lead. If you want to be known as a great communicator with integrity, when no one is watching you, you're on brand, showing integrity in the small places and showing integrity in the big places. Brand, staying on brand at all times is key to becoming your personal best. As a quote here, having a strong personal brand is all about alignment and consistency. It is the core of your personal success and the result of an effective brand execution. Showing up authentically is critical. Consistency and alignment. Does your current brand to becoming your very best is consistent and aligns with the things that you say are your strengths? If not, you got an opportunity to make some adjustments. Okay, next slide. All right, so I'm all about commitments, and this is a mini session, so we can't go all in. This is more of a teaser to show what some of the things that you can learn through the NAAWLI program. And so commitment, I am big on commitments. What you say you're going to do, you're going to do. So thinking about how committed are you to becoming your personal best? Number one, you got to believe in yourself. That's key. You've got to believe in yourself. Number two, taking relentless actions every single day. So when I think about relentless actions, whether your goals are small or big, you need to be committed to yourself to make some of those massive actions every single day without excuses. This is a no excuse zone, right? You want to be on brand, on point. Being adaptable and a continuous learner. Never stop learning. There's so many things that you can learn to become in your personal best. There's so many books that you probably could read, podcasts that you can listen to, TED Talks as well. Thinking about if you want to exude a certain, or you have a model out there, a characteristic, you got to do your research, right? When you're starting any organization or company, they usually do some competitive research. What does the climate look like out there? It's the same thing for you. If you're wanting to level up or become your personal best, you've got to be a student of learning. As I mentioned before, 4 is let go of the past failures. Success often comes to those who are willing to do whatever it takes to be successful. Now, don't be the one out there that's just cutting people off. Don't do that. Talk about humility. You don't want it not at the detriment or sacrificing to everybody. But thinking of knowing when to say yes, let your yes be yes and your no be no. So you got to think about that. Commitment, finding an accountability partner. With every good strategy, you need to have someone that can help you keep you on point. If it's a base coach, if it's a career coach, a career advisor, your spouse, your partner, whatever the combination is, you got to think about having an accountability partner. Someone that can tell you when you're not on point. So think about it. What I normally do in some of my meetings in my business sector, I have a peer of mine that we normally are in meetings at the same time. And it's a trusted peer. And if it's something that I'm going to present, she's kind of my plant. And so when I'm off point, like you are not being your full self, you're not showing up as your authentic self, she sends me a little message. She's like, virtual tap. No, or I'll see her do like this, then I know my car, get back on point. All right, learn to manage stress better. We talked about how that is key. Thinking about do you know what is the single most important thing in your life? It's nothing else but your health. You have to manage your health. Your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, all those pieces is really key. And then 7, commitment is never giving up. This is a process. I started off by saying this is becoming. It's a becoming process. It's becoming. So meaning that you have to be continually looking for ways to do process improvement, continuous improvement, so that you become a better you every single day. Every day has an opportunity to be a better you. You can be better than the you from yesterday, but you have to be continuously improving. Now, I know since this is, next slide, since this is a mini session, we won't be able to get into fully dive into creating our personal brand statements, but we can go to the next slide. What I really want you all to think about is, what's the headline? What's your headline? When people are associating you, what is the key attributes that you want to make sure resonates? Now, for those that are out there looking for jobs, it's very key. They usually do, if you think about like a resume, usually the resume, the one line or the purpose statement could be part of your personal brand statement, possibly. But when you think about this, I really want you all to take this weekend or over the course of a couple of weeks and think about what's the headline, your personal brand statement. What is your purpose? What are your values? What are your passions? Which a lot of you mentioned you're passionate, but what are they? What specifically are your passions? What are your future goals? What are your core strengths? What motivates you? And I'm gonna put a little spin on here. When you start thinking about your personal brand statement, I want you to find me. Find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram, find me on LinkedIn. I'm going to intentionally put a post this weekend. So find me out there, and I'm going to, with this particular question, if you attended a NAAWLI session, what's your headline? What's your personal brand statement? Because I really want you all to think about this truly and intentional, so then when you are showing up, then we're creating a virtual accountability partner, right? What I'm doing here, you put it out there, now you're quasi accountability coach and all those that comment on there. But then it allows us to see how you're interacting, how you're engaging. Is there alignment with your personal brand statement? And so if you're not a friend of mine, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I know there'll be some information after today's session. And I will be throwing out a thread out there this Sunday. So I really have enjoyed, hopefully you all have enjoyed this Power Punch mini empowerment session, and brought to you by the wonderful NAAWLI organization. I'm gonna give the mic over to our amazing program coordinator, Ms. Tiffany, to kind of start this Q&A session.
All right. And first, we wanted to say thank you so very much for all of everything that you have shared. I'm even just looking in the comments. Somebody's just saying, this has been a real eye-opener, and they're so grateful for these lessons. I took some notes, and so with the notes, I'm looking through to figure out which one I like. Okay, there's two, so I have to choose both. It's the reminder that self-care is not hygiene, right? So like hygiene, we're supposed to do that every day, right? So it's allowing ourselves to do that, and on top of that, have self-care. So that was awesome. And then the other one that stuck out was, you know who you are, but do you know who you can be? So that was great. And hopefully, I know you all have some great ones as well. So as you are going through, just kind of thinking about everything that was presented, we want to open it up for some Q&A. So again, my name is Tiffany Lyman. I am the NAAWLI program coordinator, and I'm going to be facilitating a brief Q&A session. So I want you to just start thinking about where you are right now. So are you playing small? Are you going all in? Are you able to commit to 1 or 12 of those ways that were shared for being your personal best? Or maybe you're thinking about your headline. So as you're thinking about your journey to becoming your personal best in your personal life and in your professional life, and thinking about some of the tips that Cara shared, I want to ask, what are some takeaways that you have? Or if there's a question that you have, this is a time that you can ask that question. Okay, so we do have a question for you. And your question is, can you share your journey to your company through NAAWLI?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. And so as my fellow alumni NAAWLI graduate from 2021, can't believe it's been 2 years, I actually, through NAAWLI, was inspired to start my own company. So as in my bio, it talked about me working with a Fortune 50 organization, but I was really inspired through hearing from the presenters about what I could do, what were my strengths, what am I most passionate about. And I was visiting with one of my fellows at the time, and I was like, you know what? I wonder, could I do this like for real, like coaching as a life coach? I mean, I do this all the time, but what would that look like? And from the fellows, from the actual presenters in the program, they gave us so many resources and tools so that I didn't have to really figure it out myself. I learned from the key CEOs. I learned from the key presenters that shared some of their plans and provided coaching after the session. I mean, I had a bird's eye view of seeing how women were operating in the C-suite while still balancing their work. And so NAAWLI was truly instrumental in for me of launching out Empower Her Life Consulting, which is specifically for women, coaching. And we have grown tremendously. And I have to say, it's attested and connected to being a part of the program. It gave me the courage. It gave me the tenacity. It gave me the spunk. You know, I would say it amplified my strengths, and it helped me identify some of the strengths as well that I had that maybe I was playing small or not playing at all. And so NAAWLI, going through the NAAWLI program, which was an intense 3-week kind of different session program, really allowed me to do a lot of self-reflection. And I think actually one of my other sisters out here from NAAWLI, Dr. Tara, I just called her out. Dr. Tara and I, we both were talking like, well, man, should you do it? Girl, just do it. Just do it afraid. Do it afraid. So here I am doing it afraid. And I am so glad that I invested into that. And my organization, actually, State Farm, sponsored me to go through the program. And so State Farm, being a supporter of D&I, diversity, inclusion, and belonging and equity, they funded me. So I had the corporate rate through State Farm organization. And so thank you, State Farm, there, a little plug. Wasn't trying to plug it, but thank you, State Farm, for sponsoring for the program.
Thanks for sharing that. And Lisa says that this sounds like her, and that she needs that spark to be lit in her. And of course, we all know that sometimes, you know, it takes somebody else saying something, reminding us of our own greatness to light that spark, and then being around other people who are lighting those sparks, right? So that we can continue to like have our flames growing, and just to continue, like, we do need to be around other people that are, kind of doing the same things that we're doing. So that's awesome. What I can do is ask you, Cara, is there one final takeaway that you would want to share with everyone who has joined us today? And then we will be providing you with some information and answering some questions that you have about the program.
I appreciate that, Tiffany. And so I would just encourage you ladies, you don't benefit anyone. No one gets to benefit your greatness if you don't show up. And so it is so key that we talked about being on brand, being consistent with your brand, but it's so critical that you show up, not just for yourself, but show up for those that are truly watching you from afar, that may be living vicariously through you. And so sometimes people have the insight and the energy to do it if they see you're doing it as well. And so I just would encourage you all, obviously, to play in your spaces, but also no longer playing small. There's no longer to playing small, irrelevant. You matter, and your presence matters as well. So definitely be not only your very best for you, but be your very best for those that come in contact with you.
Thank you so very much for everything that you have shared with us. And hopefully this, again, allows everybody to be able to commit to who and what you want to be and how you want to show up for the rest of 2023. So now I am going to introduce you to our program manager, who is going to answer some of the questions that you all had around the program.
All right, as Tiffany's pulling that up, good morning, everyone. I think it's still morning here on the East Coast. My name is Mabrat Gebra Michael, and I have the pleasure of serving as NAAWLI's program manager this year. So I want to provide over the next few minutes just kind of a high-level overview of NAAWLI's annual leadership development program. My goal is to ensure that I'm providing all the information possible to answer any questions that you may have so that by the end of this portion, you're ready to apply and join our program this year. So let's get started. High-level overview of NAAWLI. So NAAWLI is the National African American Women's Leadership Institute. It is the premier leadership and development program for Black women. It was founded in the year 2000. So we've been around for now, this is our 22nd year in programming. And it was founded by Dr. Gloria Scott and Dr. Zoma Barrios at Bennett College. So if you have any ties there, that is where NAAWLI was created. Since the inception of our program in the year 2000, we've graduated over 300 women through the NAAWLI program. The program provides an opportunity for entry to mid-level leaders to participate in our programming. It is designed to develop and excel professional Black women into leadership roles. We accomplish this by exposing participants to critical issues similar to what Cara talked about today that affect Black women in corporate spaces. And we do this through lectures, through discussion groups, simulations, and other leadership development activities. All of this is centered around our 8 core tenets: leadership, organizational development, mentorship, networking, self-care, financial acumen and entrepreneurship, presentation and branding, and community philanthropy. The sessions are going to be held Monday through Thursday, again, virtually via Zoom, from 10 a.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern time. It is a 3-week-long session. So we will meet in February, we will meet in April, and then we will conclude in June for a live graduation. And session 3 will include that opportunity for the ladies who join the program this year to be able to connect in person. And that will be the weekend of June 23rd and 24th. We're seeking women to participate in NAAWLI's program. It's very transformational. We ask that you apply today. We are still accepting applicants. Some of the requirements that you'll see on the slide here include entry-level to mid-level individual contributors, managers, high potential or key talent. You have an immense desire to drive positive impact within your organization. You have a strong willingness to make a positive change in your life and your career, and it allows you some reprieve from your work obligations so that you could fully immerse in the week of programming. Note that when you go on our website, www.naawli.org, you'll be able to find the program application there. And once you submit your application, there is a non-refundable application fee of $40 that you'll need to submit at the time of submission. Our program tuition, there is a fee to participate in our program. That payment can be submitted electronically via ACH, via credit card, via check. We are offering early bird tuition, where if you could submit your tuition by, Tuesday, January 31st, that fee is $5,500 per participant. Otherwise, our regular tuition fee is $6,500 per participant, and that is due February 13th. The first day of programming will be February 27th. So exactly a month from today is when we'll be kicking off the 2023 NAAWLI program. So I recommend discussing your interest in participating in the program with leaders within your organizations in order to gain their sponsorship. Similar to what Cara had shared, the organization did sponsor her to participate in NAAWLI. If you own your own business or are seeking tuition assistance, NAAWLI does offer a partial scholarship that would cover about half of the cost of tuition for qualified applicants. So we do have that option as well. And I will say, lastly, women who graduate from the NAAWLI program, we always leave with a renewed sense of passion and purpose. We leave with an action plan in place, in hand, our 1-year action plan, our 3-year action plan, our 5-year action plan, and we are ready to implement those actions, those commitments that Cara spoke to take us to the next level. And the women who come through the NAAWLI program, they go back to their companies, they share their experiences, they contribute these new skills that they've learned, and start operating on a higher level. And you know what that usually results in? Promotion, more funds. I see Daphne there with it. Okay, that's what it leads to. Better opportunities as we continue to show out and not play small. We know we've got the goods, and NAAWLI helps pull those goods out so we recognize what we bring to the table. All right, so with this truly transformational experience, we hope that you're ready to join the NAAWLI Nation. All right, I look forward to receiving your applications. I will turn it over to Dr. Tara.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Tara Jabrajiambra. I'm the Vice Chair of the NAAWLI Board of Directors. And that was such a phenomenal mini session by my sister, Cara. And I just want you to think about the information that was presented by her and the team today. And I want you to ask yourself, what do women of color need from their employers right now, given the climate today? We know about quiet quitting. We know about everything that's been happening since the pandemic. And what attributes should an organization seek in the professional development program? And how can NAAWLI foster your growth and development or that of other women of color at your organization? Let me tell you, as a NAAWLI 2021 graduate, it helped me to clarify my career goals and leap into a new season in my life. And because of the sisterhood, the support, and the training I received, I have been able to publish an additional book. And then I have another one that's slated to come out this year. NAAWLI gave me the confidence and the courage to step out on faith and do the things that I've always dreamed about. So I say to you, greatness is within you. And I'm going to say that again. Greatness is within you. And it's time for you to take your leap to your destiny today. So I'm asking, and I think it's really important that you know that NAAWLI is not just a program, it is a sisterhood. Just to add a brief component on there, I just moved my oldest daughter to Texas, and I have two sisters in Texas from NAAWLI that are actually going to help her as well. So it's not just a program, it's a family. So I say to you, consider applying to NAAWLI, the 2023 program. If not 2023, keep us on your slate for 2024. Reach out to us, ask us any questions. Our executive director, Jay Dean, will be happy to talk to you, and any board member. If you want to reach out to us, I believe we're all on social media. We're happy to talk to you about your personal journey, but also if there's some opportunities for partnerships. We would love your organization to be involved. So make sure that you follow NAAWLI on all of our social media platforms. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram. Follow us, find out what we're talking about, join the conversations, give us something to talk about. And we just want to say thank you so much for joining us today.